I see this with a lot of couples, and it leads to the question, do arguments repeat in cycles? In other words, are arguments cyclical? Today, I'm going to talk about this in greater detail because one of the biggest misconceptions a lot of couples have is that they believe that they're arguing about different things every time they argue. But when we look at it through a relational and a clinical lens, they're actually not. Many couples are actually repeating the same emotional cycles. They're just going through different situations, right? The topics change, but the emotional patterns stay the same. One week, you could be arguing about money. Another week, you could be arguing about intimacy. Another week, you could be arguing about communication, parenting, the tone of voice, chores, communication. The list goes on and on and on. But underneath the surface of all that, many couples are really actually experiencing the same emotional themes, which is, I don't feel heard. I don't feel valued. I don't feel safe. I feel dismissed. I feel like I'm being controlled. I don't feel seen. I feel alone. These themes are built up over time. And what happens is, instead of responding in the moment, many couples start to react from past experiences that have emotionally been accumulated over time. There is pain that has been accumulated and compounded over time. So this is why you see small conversations quickly become emotionally explosive. The issue is no longer the issue anymore because there is history that's attached to it. There is interpretation that's attached to it, and even fear that could be attached to it. And so what we see from a clinical perspective and from a relational perspective is that couples start to develop conflict patterns. For example, you can see that one couple is pushing harder while the other couple is shutting down, right? Another example could be one couple becomes emotionally reactive while the other one is avoiding. One couple escalates, trying to feel understood, and then the other couple withdraws because they feel overwhelmed. So these conflict patterns develop over time because the same emotional patterns, the same emotional themes are being repeated, right? And ironically, you see both partners are usually trying to protect themselves emotionally while they are at the same time hurting the relationship and don't even know it. This is why communication techniques sometimes just by themselves don't work. They fail because there are unresolved emotional wounds, defensiveness, pride, fear, resentment, and emotional exhaustion that is operating underneath the conversation that goes under the radar. And the scriptures actually let us know that we have to speak, be slow to speak and quick to hear, right? This gives us time to really engage with the emotions and the feelings of the conversation. It sounds simple, but really it's hard when the pain enters the room and not everything is vibrating everywhere. So we have to be slow to speak, slow to anger, right? Quick to hear. That's God's solution to emotional regulation, right? We also see in Ephesians chapter 4 to not let the sun go down on our wrath and our anger. That avoids, that minimizes, that takes away the opportunity for emotional pain to accumulate and be compounded, right? Not because conflict never happens, but because unresolved conflict over time hardens the heart. And so when the heart is hardened and people are dealing with conversations and conflicts, that heart is going to show up. 1,000 unresolved moments, 1,000 defensive reactions, and 1,000 repaired attempts over time creates this cycle. But I'll tell you this, the cycle can change. It's going to take work. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. Here's how it starts to change. When couples begin to slow down emotionally, when they begin to identify the patterns instead of just the incidents and replaying moments, right? When they increase their emotional safety and vulnerability, when they communicate with humility, right? Repair intentionally, very quickly. The moment you realize there's an issue, fix it, work on it, right? When couples take ownership and accountability rather than shifting the blame, right? When they pursue understanding instead of trying to win the argument. This is where the cycle can change. That's where the change begins. Relationships can really bring a deep healing inside of you when you do it the right way. The goal is not perfection. The goal is being consistent. The goal is to have awareness, to have responsibility, to intentionally repair and intentionally connect with one another. Because, even healthy couples struggle. Even healthy couples go through different conflicts and situations. It's how they handle it that determines the level of healthiness that they are operating in, right? And so this is one of the deeper areas I continue to highlight and bring to the forefront so that couples can really know the depth of what's happening behind their conflict. That is the same thing repeated over time. The arguments are really about the same thing. The emotional patterns being repeated, the emotional themes being repeated. So if you deal with the root, then the conversations will change.